Thanks so much, Aggro. And that was Chaotic Purpose. And just one more time, congratulations going the way of Astral Authority for picking up the clean 3-0 set and progressing to tomorrow's finals matches.
But they still have to figure out who's going to win this upcoming set. Obey Alliance against Elevate.
And this is another matchup that teams have really been keeping an eye on, and the public in general, considering that both of these teams have really been making their standpoints already here at the LAN.
We saw Elevate yesterday take out Strictly Business 2-0. Clean games as well coming from Obey Alliance as they took out the last European team, Optimus Gang.
And both of these teams, with the 2-0 sets in mind, just ready to try and have as dominant of a performance that we just saw out of Astral Authority. I know for a fact that either side is looking for the clean 3-0 victory over the other, because that is really where you establish your presence in the scene.
I mean, sometimes you just got to assert the dominance and force the issues to be able to penetrate the defenses. So we'll see if either of these teams can manage to do so in this long, drawn-out best-of-5 set. A lot of strategies having to be here.
A lot of strategies indeed, Toli. And for a fact, we know that Elevate tend to play more of an unknown kind of player style. And I think two of the players I really want to look at in this matchup are probably two of the most notable members on each of these squads. We've already seen a lot of the members on Elevate working together in order to progress, particularly Oboronic showed up yesterday pretty big on that Vulcan. Kenshin was doing an excellent job as well. But you also have to keep in mind that there is MichaelCheco, and that's really the guy to keep an eye on, because Checo is just non-stop popping off. Yesterday we saw his Medusa gameplay, and that was just incredible as a whole.
Yeah, people are really afraid of this player in the console scene. A lot of people really respect him, so much so that they even ban away the hell just from him. He's able to lock in some of these unorthodox strategies to go away from the hunters and to bring in some of these mages. And then whenever you have that kind of respect, now you're taking away an important ban that could have been used elsewhere.
But it's very evident that he's still more than capable of playing the standard meta hunters in order to provide his team with that fighting teamfight presence as a whole. And if you can factor in that kind of dominance in your gameplay, you become such an issue to handle.
Absolutely, but it's not just the side of MichaelCheco, it's also his support Kenshin that allows him to get off to that kind of great start. But going up against MichaelCheco is going to be Air Cougar from Obey Alliance, the world defending champion who's the rest of the roster hasn't changed as well.
And all of Obey really looking to prove themselves here, because I think a lot of people this season, considering the start of their spring split and how they've been a little bit more slow on the ball for things, it's just going to be a moment in time for them to prove that they are more than capable of still being that world championship team.
Absolutely. There's just so much synergy between this team because of how long they've been together before. Some of these members going way back in the late 2014 days, so a lot of respect here between each and every single member.
And the neat part about this matchup as well is Eric Cougar is also a guy who has a pretty flexible hunter god pool. He can pull out the Rum, he can pull out the Medusa or the Neath or the Onher. He just plays all of them, really.
And that's what you need to have out of your hunter, which both of them do between Elevate and Obey. So that's going to be one spicy matchup to watch out for.
And I know that both of these guys, they do tend to lean a little bit more towards that aggressive playstyle. Eric Cougar, while he can play a little bit more back, if his team needs him to be more the utility hunter factor, it's good to keep in mind.
He could play a little bit back, but not
unlikely.
Not playing back was he yesterday on the Hu Yi against Optimus Gang. It was actually a competition between Air Cougar and Delta Marine just to see who was getting more damage at the end of the game.
Hey, damage is always one of the most important parts of these games, and at least it's one of the most satisfying parts to achieve at the end of the game.
Absolutely, especially when you can dive bomb as a Hu Yi, but trying to dive bomb against Kenshin here, the support out of Elevate, is not going to be an easy task. He's an experienced veteran here for his squad. And
Kenshin, a very notable thing about him as well is just his map awareness. He's always very cognizant of where his teammates are on the map and whether or not he needs to be making the rotations necessary in order to help provide support to them.
And, you know, sometimes you just got to moisturize right before a game and make sure that everything is just fine and smooth.
Gotta make sure that your hands are prepared for handling your controller properly. And there's nothing wrong with that. I got respects to the man. That's actually like gripping gel. It helps greatly as far as the controllers are concerned.
You know, there's a fine art to how you handle the sticks.
I'm sure totally that there is, but for the most part, there's also a fine art to Kenshin support play, and that's probably one of my favorite parts to take note of, is this guy just has, again, a really flexible mindset as far as picking the gods that his team could utilize to their best of their capability.
Delta Marine there, the man on your screen, the mid player for Obey Alliance, looking very confident right now. Not really too worried about too much. A nice little smile out of him. The rest of his teammates looking very confident after their last set against Optimus Gang, but now having to go against the North American side of Elevate. It's going to be a different kind of style here. Different picks and bans between different regions. You know, Europe didn't truly respect the Scotty or the Cabrakan, even the Susanoo at some points, but Elevate are certainly going to make sure that there's no aggressive options for myflin here.
Not only that, but they also still need to keep in mind Delta Marine, for instance, is a very dangerous mid laner. He has been known to pull out those hyper carry kind of gods, such as the Habwa, that he really can just snowball the games with. And you would think that a Habwa, for instance, would have such massive difficulties progressing through the early mid-game stages. But if you watch Delta Marine, the guy has like no issues whatsoever.
That's a god that he made a name for himself for, and I do expect this pick to be used in the best of 5 set, not necessarily in the first game, as teams are still kind of figuring each other out here as we do head into the first picks and bans.
But you never really know what to expect, especially considering that, like we've seen from a lot of members already on both of these squads, anything is really fair game. And they both have excellent god pools to flex. You never really know what kind of pocket picks to expect, because in a situation that's determining whether or not you're progressing to the finals, I wouldn't be surprised to see either of these two teams try out a pocket pick that has worked out really well for them.
Well, I'm really surprised to see the Morgan being banned away this early on. That was a great pick for Elevate as well during the online phases, as well as the land. So this is going to be a great option for Obey Alliance, not having to worry about that flexibility with the ultimate that the Morgan can provide.
And of course, Elevate just immediately taking away the Cabrakan and Susanoo, recognizing that Obey do have the first pick, so not going to provide any sort of comfort to that squad.
Well, Awilix is quite a comfort pick for myflin. He likes to play aggressive, and what other aggressive option is there besides the Awilix, with Susanoo being banned away, riding the Suko to the sunset, trying to farm those kills.
But there is a little bit of a risk factor involved when you first pick the Awilix. That might be, it's either Obey Alliance or really feeling myflin on this Awilix pick, or they're not concerned about Elevate having any sort of capabilities of shutting it down. Because when you pick a god like Awilix so soon, it's very easy for Elevate to try and avoid as many leaps as possible. And on top of that, they can also pick gods such as Bellona and Khepri that handle it quite proficiently.
But by not picking up leaps, Obey Alliance have that option, taking away the Odin. And surprisingly enough, with delnyy playing so well on the Bellona the last time around, gonna lock it in very early in the draft this time.
I do like the Zeus quite a lot, though, because we always see these Odin picks, but we never really see the AoE control that you need to go hand in hand with that ring. And with the Zeus, not only are you getting the burst damage possibilities, but you're also getting the potential just for the general AoE control inside and outside of those jungle fights.
Good AoE from Odin and Zeus, but also good AoE from Batz. However, it doesn't seem that they got your memo, Taco, because that's going to be a jump against the Awilix.
You can still run the bots against an Awilix. There are certain gods that have leaps that I don't think are necessarily as risky to roll with, because Batz does have the CC of his ultimate, and not only that, but it's also just massive crowd control in general, because when you try to feather step and drop your combination on the bots, if they're quick enough and they just drop their ultimate on their feet, that could be a very fast turnaround and catch you quite off guard.
So with a mid-mage still needed for Elevate for Dr. L here, you're trying to think of two things. You're trying to think of, obviously, the cripple for the Awilix and ways to get out of the Odin cage. Scylla comes first to mind, but by going Scylla, you're also going to get pulled back into the action. Do you even risk going Scylla against this Odin Awilix combo?
I wouldn't be surprised to see Elevate potentially pull out a Poseidon in this circumstance. I mean, they banned the Hubwa. They don't want to allow any sort of... They don't want to risk Elevate taking that pick away and trying to use it against them just because of how much damage it does. And Hubwa would be excellent as far as bursting down that Zeus in the mid lane. He has a really hard time escaping from the Hubwa, especially when you pair a Batz with it. So I'm leaning probably a little bit more towards Poseidon, but if they do go with the Chronos, that's something we haven't seen in quite a long time.
No, not at all, but Chronos has been locked in without a mage or a dedicated hunter. So that could be a flex pick potentially, whether it's going to go to MichaelCheco or DrL.
But this is Elevate, so like you said, totally, it's really all up in the air for these guys. But what would you kind of anticipate for Obey to be leaning towards at this point?
Obey certainly need a very aggressive hunter here for Airkruger. Xing Chen locked in though, so a decent amount of control and setup. Hu Yi does provide knockup as well if he finds that mark into the dive bomb.
And I really like this draft from Obey Alliance. It circles all day long. You can't ever really go wrong with having the Washing Machine Ultimate, the Hu Yi Sunbreaker, and then you've got Zeus, of course, with the Odin. That's going to be devastating if anybody on the side of Elevate is caught out.
Some good early game from Obey Alliance between the Awilix, the Odin, and then you have the great mid to late game between their last 3 picks. As long as they start rotating and grouping up in these team fights and catch Elevate off guard, that's going to be a huge advantage for Obey Alliance.
You really think that's going to be a massive advantage for Obey?
I think as long as they can get the right warding situation, they hug the corners the way they need to, they can catch anybody slipping because Odin's cage is going to prevent, Khepri from getting out. Bellona is going to have to commit to a defensive Eagles rally, which is going to not allow the rest of her teammates to get that aura between the protections and the damage. And then Chronos has to invest into that ultimate. Not only that, Batz has to jump away, which in turn, Awilix is going to just pull you back in.
And the Ra is actually going to be the final selection here for Elevate into the Odin. That's some risking it for the biscuit right there.
It's a risk versus reward. Having to be careful more now with the positioning is DrL. To be fair, you have a lot of range with this Sun God. So as long as you're relatively far back, you're playing off of your Khepri, Kenshin's going to have to set up DrL with some really fantastic routes to get some snipes.
Well, totally. We've got all the picks and bans locked away for this first game number 1 in this best of 5 set of Obey Alliance versus Elevate. And now you got the casters to take it away.
I gotta say, I really like this draft coming out from Elevate. You got the bunt hats in the jungle to just mess everything up, and the Chronos. I am still a believer in Chronos. He doesn't have the Fatalis effect anymore, but I still think he can do work.
I'm a little bit worried by the Ra pick, though. Like the Death said as well, Ra into an Odin isn't necessarily the best thing in the world. It's not doom and gloom, but it's not going to be that helpful when you've got a couple extra characters in this lineup that can be locked away by this Odin cage.
Here's my thought process. We've all seen the way IamDwurst has played Ra on the PC side of things, and that is just, hey man, sure, heals are all nice, but I'm not about the sustain. It's just about long-range damage. If Elevate play this Ra with that in mind,
sure,
you've got help from Khepri and Batz. Don't forget, Bellona's ultimate gives 50 protections to people hanging out in that big circle. I think that, sure, you could see a little bit more help for oBoronic, but I think, one, oBoronic has really made a name for himself on this Ra by way of being a long-range siege cannon, and the fact that they have a little bit of help, I think just might be enough, but we'll all see how it works out on the battlefield.
Dwursty on the Xing 10 at the start of the game, starting off with the Hand of the Gods. Maybe a little bit worried about being invaded, or he wants to play the safer option and try and secure his buffer himself. Did pick up the Bombers at the start of this game too, so taking these jungle camps will revitalize him. If he loses some lane pressure here, he's going to do this quick though, because if there is 2 starting in the right-hand lane, which is what it looks like from Elevate, they can push in and potentially still contest this.
That's why he has the Hand of the Gods right there. Really needs to make sure he gets that blue buff. As a Guardian fighting into a Warrior, he's not in the driver's seat. He's got to take a step back and use some of the tools to go ahead and secure this for him. It'll be spawning in about 5 seconds, so we'll see if it works out.
A little bit surprised as well to see that Kenshin has gone on the Khepri for the shell at the start of the game. It will be useful for the team, but Meditate is just so strong on supports right now. Surprised to see that drafted so early. When you actually look at the side of Obey, their real burst potential is the Odin Bird Bomb, if anything, and the Zeus ultimate, of course. But most of the time with the Zeus ult, you'll absorb the damage, but those dots will still stay on you. Those stacks to allow the detonate can just be waited on until the shell falls off.
I mean, that's really what they're looking for early game. Then as you step into the mid game, you got myflin to really do work on the Awilix, and this is a character and a player that can be extremely just a catalyst for what your team wants to do later on.
But I love the call from oBe's duo lane there. Didn't even go to lane to pressure early on against Checo. Instead, they decided to invade the purple, look at the red buff as well, strip them away, then come back to the lane. Checo's comfortably enough at level 2 on the Chronos. We've seen plenty of Chronos players playing negative matchups before.
Yeah.
It's just about tower hugging.
And MichaelCheco is a player that knows how to play oddball selections over there in the duo lane. These days, Chronos, I won't exactly call him an oddball like we saw Transonics play the Mercury last match, but it's certainly not usual, normal, or regular.
Sure.
So that means it's right up MichaelCheco's alley.
But mention the Chronos pick as well, because they've got a magical in the duo lane, a magical in the mid lane as well. This puts a lot of pressure on the physical players on this Elevate squad, specifically ElevateDoctorL here.
Yeah.
That's so important for Dr. L to have a good game on this Hun Batz. He's the majority of the physical damage coming out, knowing that Bellona generally will go for defensive items.
Dr. L, man.
Oh, Checo's
Trouble for Checo. He's going to get knocked up, stunned. There's the bird bomb. Great use of the Aegis, but I think he's toast anyway, Hindu man. Walking around, doing nothing. Air Cougar puts the Chronos down for game 1, first blood.
It was a great start from the world champions there in the duo lane. Jelly should have recognized there was an Aegis online for Chronos and tried to step maybe that leap a little bit more and try and bait that out, but it still paid off because he had the slow available to follow it up, and that was good enough to bring down Checo early on. Even better news, Cougar getting the first kill on a Ho-Yi. Ho-Yi is one of the best fighters in the game, one of the best brawlers that you want to have, especially after a Skadi, and he's getting worse right now for Elevate.
myflin continuing oBe's reign of terror on the other side of the map. 2 kills to none, nice and early. oBe getting a kill a minute.
So already dual lanes ahead for oBe, as well as solo now, especially with that nice drop of delnyy on the solo lane. So because of that, the focus can now turn from myflin potentially towards the mid lane a little bit more. He's already done the work in the first 3 minutes to get the team ahead. The whole team of oBe in a good position right now.
You know, when it comes down to it, Graham, I really like when teams play to their own identity. And right now, Elevate picking the Rod, despite the fact that Odin was already selected, is playing into their identity. Oboronic, one of the stronger Raw players, and has a unique play style. But I still want to see something a little bit more weird. Elevate's the weird team.
I could agree. One thing I do like, though, is the fact that we mentioned about the Raw versus Odin matchup, and you're like, you don't really want to pick a Raw into an Odin. That is Oboronic, probably one of the best positioning mid laners on the box right now. So that puts him in a fantastic position to really show how good he can be.
Nice jump from Cougar to avoid the somersault out of Dr. L right there. Honestly, that would have been a slow. Dr. L really didn't want to use the ultimate, and he doesn't, although he certainly would have gotten a kill there.
But his decision to come up to the dual lane is a wise one from Dr. L. Relieve a little bit of pressure on Checo. Make sure Cougar stays in check. We saw Cougar get that first blood, and instead of trying to snowball that lane and allow him to free farm now, Dr. L turns up to try and defend the jungle buffs on this left-hand side, and also make sure Cougar doesn't get overly aggressive.
I mean, he showed up nice and early, too. I actually wanted to mention it. Dr. L, as soon as his hunter died, he was there in lane, making sure they couldn't push on the tower. They couldn't get any free pressure by way of the jungle buffs, like you said. I really like that rotation coming out from the good doctor.
It's also he picks up the farm as well, which is one thing that junglers love, the extra farm if they can get it from the lanes. Granted, they'd rather that lane partners not die in the engagement, but he would also be happy enough to pick up the free farm, get himself a little bit further ahead, which at the moment he is still behind myflin in terms of levels.
Yeah, Chronos right now is able to finish up his boots despite being very close to the bottom of net worth. Those boots immediately are going to help Chronos. The magical hunters, they sort of had their day in the sun before, but they are so item dependent, just like a regular hunter, but every item is a huge power spike for them. Seeing that those first boots completed, Graham, that's going to be a really good look for MichaelCheco right away.
Yeah, the boost early on allows him to get a little bit more damage off in the minion wave as well, and the mobility is really the key. Don't forget with Rewind as well available for a Chronos player. You can position yourselves a little bit quicker, which means you've got a lot more time to rewind too to get to a safer point. At the same time though, Cougar here, I want to see where he goes with his build. Will we see a Silver Branch is my real question here. Silver Branch, exactly the same as Iqval, but good for being against magicals.
And when it comes down to Ho-Yi, he's got some of the lower attack speed, even seeing some love in regard to that. So that's absolutely going to be a good pick if that's the direction Air Cougar wants to go. he could just stack power instead of the attack speed and look to really nail people with those ricochets and the ultimates. But traditionally, we see Hou-Yis try to amplify their attack speed. And right away, Air Cougar trying to zone MichaelCheco out.
But DoctorL,
yeah.
That's the only reason he stopped the zone there after is because the ward down on that corner spotted DoctorL on the rotation. He's like, well, instead of me getting zoned away from the minions myself, I'll clear it, fall back to a safe location. DoctorL doesn't find any reward from that small rotation.
A slew of aggressive warding coming out from the guys on Elevate, whereas Obey really only, or defensive, excuse me, whereas Obey only have one offensive ward up there by the enemy purple. Elevate really don't want to get stepped on early on.
Gold Fury, though, started up by Obey, and I like this call from them. They've got pressure in pretty much every lane here.
Well done.
Elevate are just so focused on trying to get through the early game without being punished too hard after already losing 2 kills, that they're giving up more map pressure to the side of Obey, and that's what resulted in the pressure.
Cougar finds the stun, bringing Checo down to half HP. And with both big AoE ultimates down for Obey, Elevate want to start the fight in the mid lane. pbnjellly locked in the cage.
That was really, really solid coming out from Elevate to pick up that 1 kill. DoctorL would have loved the second onto myflin there, but DoctorL's decision-making to go on the back line there and not go on the tank that was the front line was a really good decision. Odin gets plucked, the reinforcements from Obey turn up to support him. Instead of him being focused down, it's actually the back line. Killing Zeus way more important than Odin.
I liked when Jelly dropped down the cage. He locks himself in with a bunch of players and then walks right on out, but ultimately doesn't work out for Obey. Elevate get themselves on the board in minute 6. We push on to the 7th minute. Dwurst here getting pushed onto his own tower.
Left-hand side as well, you can see the rotation coming out from Oboronic as well as Kenshin there, just to secure the purple again. A little bit worried of Elevate on this left-hand side, clearly, about the initial invade that we saw coming out from Obey. So they're playing a little bit more attention to this in the last couple of respawns to make sure it doesn't happen again.
So this is where the lane should change for MichaelCheco. As he reaches level 9, there's enough points in his time rift and his time stop, especially when combined with the mana-saving accelerate portion, that he's going to be able to clear this wave pretty much no problem.
Yep.
Before, Cougar was able to punish the lack of clear. Now, he's really hit his stride, and it's going to be troublesome.
Same time, though, Hou-Yi is still Hou-Yi, and he will still be trying to fight you in this wave. The big key for Checo in the matchup really is to try and find a potential stun. If he can, and there's a chance to try and poke down Cougar a little bit more, put him in an uncomfortable position. So if he hangs around, the rotations can come out.
Love the optimization coming out from the Chronos player here. 2/3 of Bancroft already done. The Bancroft is going to be fantastic by way of giving him extra healing. He's a basic attack character, so he's going to get 100% of that lifesteal instead of 1/3 like he will on the abilities. It's really a powerful pick here, and more importantly, it's cheap. So that's going to make his power spike hit nice and even with the enemy hunter, and it's just going to be a cleaner look for Checo.
It's also generally for a Chronos play, you're going to get down to about 50%, 25% health before you're even going to force your own rewind anyway. So if you do have abilities up at that time, they're going to be putting out a little bit more damage thanks to the passive from Bancroft's Talon.
Right now, still 2-1. Elevate still very much tight in this game, despite being down over 1,000 gold. Elevate really need to just look for the next objective. We saw the sneak come out from Obey, and that's the reason they're sitting up above Elevate this early on. Elevate has to make sure that that doesn't happen a second time.
It's a really big game, this as well, for both teams to say exactly how it's going to play out in the mid-game, because I feel like Elevate are kind of waiting up for Odin's power spike to drift into the nether, where he becomes that ring bot. Whether they're going to get a Phantom to try and deal with this, or the anti-healing coming out from him will be enough. That's one of the reasons I'm bringing up anti-healing now, is because Delta Marine started off going for penetration right at the beginning of this game. If he goes for the Divine Ruin, I can understand why.
Sure. I mean, that's exactly... yeah. He's got to start thinking about some of the healers on the other side, and even with the Phantom, I think it's going to be a play-by-ear situation.
For sure, and generally it is. Most people seem to underestimate Phantom a lot of the time. If there was knockups on this team, there's an extra reason to be looking towards Phantom as well. But it can make a big impact in the team fights that people underestimate. Just being able to get out of that ring is so useful if teams can recognize it. Even though Phantom's cooldown is a little bit longer than the Odin ring.
Yeah, for me, like I said, it's a play-by-ear scenario. I think that Oboronic has enough tools on the team to be totally fine. Nice little ricochet and a jump over the wall on Air Cougar. That's just understanding where on the map that the Hou-Yi player is. A better one done by AC.
But he's still going to be careful doing that, Cougar, because if he continues on, DoctorL will continue to try and gank him over and over again and apply pressure. Cougar looking to box out and have fun with that might be fantastic, but at the same time, it looks good on paper, right? But if he dies, then everyone's going to look at him like, what were you doing?
Oh, of course.
What were you doing there in the first place?
Yeah, it's Smite in general.
Yep.
Anything you do, if you get the kill, you get a round of applause. And if you get killed, it's, I have no idea what you're doing playing Smite, uninstall.
Except when I'm a chair too, and I'm like, why are you even fighting that? You got to kill, but you didn't get a single thing off it because you're going back to base yourself.
Exactly. Just rough stuff sometimes.
Did see that
right
portal
side,
demon. Yeah.
Portal demon goes down to Obey a second. And that's what I said. Elevate can't let these objectives go for free. A second free objective for the guys on Obey.
But this is Elevate playing back again. Like I said, it's only really DrL that's doing any moving and shaking in this game. Nothing really coming out from Kenshin so far in terms of aggression, which you kind of expected of Khepri. But position is so important for Elevate in the early game. There is a snowball potential out of Obey with the composition they've drafted here. And they're trying to make sure they don't drop kills, but in doing so, they're actually giving up a lot of objectives in the middle of the map.
Here, Cougar avoids some of the damage from MichaelCheco. He'll just keep an eye on the oracles to make sure the opposition can't get him. But look at the timing. Guess what's spawning? MichaelCheco gets jumped on. A perfect ultimate out of the Chronos. And now he's looking to take down pbnjellly.
Bad news, the ring was still available though. Worst news is that Obey dropped the ring, but nobody's there for a rotation, so Checo's not going to get punished. Or is he?
Feather Step is good from the jungler. myflin gets the knockup and the pull, but there's the Khepri ultimate. myflin, waiting it out, changes his mind, turns his idea towards the other way since his mid lane just got taken out.
Bit of miscommunication from Obey overall there. They get punished for it on Delta Marine as well. The team of Obey tried to make that ring worthwhile from Jelly, and instead they get punished for the all-in Chronos. They could have walked away with the fact that Checo's ultimate was on cooldown. They had plenty of a window then to go back and look at him again. Instead, they try to force it, and it works out against them.
Bigger problem for me than that entire fight. Good bees out of myflin to save him. Delta Marine died with the ultimate. It can't happen.
It's just because they were trying to close the gap at the last minute with that ring being down. I don't understand why they went for Checo there. They weren't in the right position. Could have backed away. As well as that, though, not only did they lose Delta Marine there, but when Cougar was fighting over those elementals, over the oracles around the Gold Fury pit, there was a full wave of minions going into the tower that Checo had pushed. So not only did Cougar end up not getting the kill there, he also lost a whole wave of minions to the tower for that engagement. Small thing, but it does add up if it continues to happen.
So like we said, when you get the kill, you look like a god, but
if you don't get the kill, then sometimes it can come back to haunt you a little bit when you look back at the game tape and go, yeah, maybe I should have gone for the farm instead.
Just in case. 2-2 radar kills as we're almost at 13 minutes. Nice and early. Obey find themselves nice and ahead. 2,500 gold this early is certainly not a good look for Elevate.
Keep an eye on myflin now as well. He's just coming back from base at level 13, has the Blink Relic online. That's going to allow a situation for Obey to be looking to engage now. Having myflin blink into a team fight, and then if he gets in trouble, being able to Suku back out, very important.
Feather Step from myflin puts him in a bad spot. Good abduct, oBoronic off the mark. myflin's still alive. He's going to get out of the right-hand side. pbnjellly gets stunned out. Good long range out of the Chronos, but it's not enough. Cougar making it rain. Delta Marine off of the Hunter. That's going to be one for mid and one for Air Cougar.
Christmas Day for Cougar there. Walks around the corner and everybody's pretty much dead, used all their abilities to survive. And Cougar's like, oh, thank you very much. I'll take it, kill and an assist. Now we can look to invade potentially the Gold Fury as well, as it has respawned.
You say Christmas Day for Cougar. I'm saying Christmas Day for myflin. He makes the objective wrong choice.
Oh, Eagles rally on 3. Boom, Delta Marine's dead again. The bludgeon did so much work, but it looks like we will see the Bellona fall in place.
Jelly makes a sandwich out of delnyy, not going to survive that one. 4 players giving chase onto oBoronic. He's a Ra. He's got no dash. pbnjellly still looking for it. Nice little beam, and it'll be enough to separate the Ra away from the team. Well done by oBoronic.
Yeah, good kiting work from them more often than not. Using the blind as well, it does provide a slow to be able to buy him enough time. And the presence of mind to realize they were slow to be able to turn around and give some damage slows down Obey's advance.
And by staying alive, oBoronic just shuts down the Gold Fear attempt simply by being present. That long-range, high-damage ultimate out of the Ra player is just going to be too much for Obey to deal with had they gone for the objective.
Fine, they got kills, but Obey did lose the situation around the Gold Fury. They're actually losing the battle over the Oracles now, which just spawned, which relieves a little bit of pressure for Elevate to have to go for that gold. They've got a nice little window with free war coverage that can't be denied.
Still 3,500 gold now is the lead for Obey. Just keep pushing it forward despite not even getting the Gold Fury. They're just able to capitalize off of these team fights by looking for the invades, some jungle of their own, and a little bit on top.
But just keep an eye on that Paul Demon this time after as well, because Obey got it last time round. It's about to respawn again. Elevate, like we said, have vision around the gold, but not of that Portal Demon. They've got to be wary of that because they gave away a free one last time. They just build up over time if you keep giving them away.
Dwurst over here, 2 assists, number 2 on the player damage for his team, number 3 overall. Really important on the Xing Chen. Always has been.
And DWURST will get into this game the longer it goes, too. You saw the late rotations to these team fights, not because they were necessarily late. It's just a Xing 10 trying to get over to the other side of the map is the problem. But once he gets there, he can make an impact in these fights.
Right.
Because the fights generally will start before the solo laners arrive and allow those beads to be burnt for when the washing machine arrives. Checo's in trouble, though.
He's got his dancing shoes, misses 1 and 2 from the guys
Turn around.
attacking him, and gets hit up by myflin. However, still finds an exit. The rest of Elevate are here. Air Cougar in trouble. Drops the Suns, turns it around. DoctorL goes down. myflin here finds the feather step onto oBoronic. Late to the party comes delnyy. On the back line, stuns out Air Cougar 72. Still not dead. Great ultimate by Kenshin onto himself. But it do not matter. myflin takes him down.
Big kill for oBoronic on the back of that, though, to deny Cougar. Now the pressure's relieved a little bit. Checo's going in.
And Delta Marine low. Checo, he waited that long to use the ultimate. Great Chronos play. Level 14, still trailing against his direct opposition Hunter, but looking very good as Chronos starts to come into himself.
Yeah, the rewind on Checo there looked a bit awkward, but what he was doing was expecting more advancement from oBe to collapse onto him as he was so far forward from his team.
Yeah.
The rewind early on was just preventative measures in case they did try and collapse.
I like the patience out of MichaelCheco though, and this is, for me, this watching him play this Chronos, especially how different this character is from the last couple of times we've seen him on board. It's really just sort of watching how late can you push it. Playing Chronos is playing chicken.
Sure.
How long can you hold on to that ultimate?
Now go back to that fight though, and I looked at when delnyy rotated in with the Bellona looking for the Eagles rally. I would have liked to see him assess the situation just a little bit better as what he found it in. What a normal backliner does, what a normal solo laner does, is to go straight to the backline and looking for the carries.
Right.
In that situation there, the carries were safe enough that he wasn't going to get any follow-up on his own, and he'd be isolated from his team. If he would have gone towards his tier 1 tower, he could have potentially saved Kenshin a little bit more from the amount of damage he took and turned that fight from a positional defensive point. They may not have got kills, but they would have survived more as a team.
Yeah, I think right now his build is a little bit too defensive to really look for what he was trying to find. Kenshin able to walk away from that one so far. There's a beautiful blink. DoctorL tries to get it, but he forces out the beats from Air Cougar. That's a win in and of itself.
But
he's locked on in, and Delta Marine snipes him from a distance with the basic. myflin finds his third, 303. And they're looking at gold.
And no rewind this time available for Checo as myflin still going in Kenshin, keeping him away. DWURST on the right hand side trying to zone away 2 now, so the Gold Fury can be taken by oBe.
And that's exactly the way it goes. 18 on the clock. This game is maturing in exactly the direction oBe wants it to. Over the top goes delnyy. He'll be safe under the tower for now, but with DWURST going this deep into, he's got Jelly next to him. The up-down not so strong out of the Odin, but all the while, the basics from the Hunter and Awilix barreling into the tower.
Main focus from Elevate needs to be clearing out those minions that are coming in. The problem is that with new mid-wave now arriving as well, it's too little too late for Elevate. So oBe will take a tier 1, and guess where they're going? Portal Demons next on the cards.
Love that play coming out from oBe. There's no way that Jelly and DWURST are getting the kill there, but they're able to zone, space out, and allow their Hunters to get a tower that kind of wasn't theirs to take.
It wasn't in one regard, but Elevate allowed them to just pressure it so much without denying the creeps. Take away the creeps from that situation, and oBe are taking a lot more damage from the tower shots, from the fact the tower's not dying as quick because backdoor protections are still something in effect.
MichaelCheco here on this Chronos. Still want to see a little bit more.
Man, you're wishing for this Chronos to make something happen.
I
know
want
you
this
are.
Chronos to happen for 2 reasons. One, I think the character is better than people are giving it credit for. I don't think it's the worst. Now, I don't think he's the best. But also, I am also just a fan of what MichaelCheco does. He does not respect the meta. He does not respect the tier list. MichaelCheco plays what MichaelCheco plays, and I have a respect for players that do that as long as it works. And more often than not, it does for this guy. So I kind of really want to see this Chronos work out.
I'm always just scared about how out there it is. Yeah, I'm down for the unconventional pit that you might be very good at, but sometimes you're way out in left field and everybody else is nowhere near you because nobody else can see it, and you've got to really show it off to a high standard to make people believe that some of these picks can be picked.
And MichaelCheco has made a name for himself. I mean, I compared him to, if you guys remember way back in the PC days, Dark Black. This guy MichaelCheco was a ranked player. He's a notorious ranked player for doing what I just said. He picks what MichaelCheco wants to pick, and then he wins, so much so that not only does he get the attention of the pro players, he gets on a pro team.
Oh, Cougar got some attention paid to him now by the Batz over in the left-hand side. DoctorL's done some decent work, but Cougar having his leap cancelled the first time means he's got it available the second time to get away and relieve the pressure. Elevate have to walk away after investing DoctorL's ult.
And MichaelCheco's able to find himself in the semifinals of a spring split finals. So watching MichaelCheco perform
Round
here.
2.
Now he's looking for it, tries to get aggressive, gets locked up. Can't find the stun. His jungler does find the teleport. Now he's looking for the basics. pbnjellly versus Dr. L. Cougar takes out Checo. Here's Delta from the mid lane. Everybody's looking for the monkey.
Marine needs to be careful though, because there is a rotation around the left-hand side coming out from Elevate, but so is myflin. Eagles rallying from delnyy, going to force Cougar back, as meanwhile on the backside is oBoronic having to reposition.
Big shot out of the rod to get him a little bit of extra damage, but however, he's in trouble. Kenshin helps him out with a great ultimate. delnyy, on the other hand,
he's going back to base. Not the way he would like to go back to base, that's for sure. Another kill on the cards for myflin, 4-0 and 3 now. I know Bay can look to pressure this tier 1. I like the call from Elevate to fall back. I know DWurst is trying to make sure it's a slow process.
Look at the up-down coming out from the support player, setting up myflin there for the grab, but it's all just a deke.
Ooh,
looking for the damage on the tower. DWurst might trade his life here, but...
Oh, he lived for the pinner. He was going to get him in response. 1 for 1. Get soloed.
Martyrdom kill for the monkey.
Wow.
So rarely does the damage from Fear No Evil actually matter. It is such a low
I've never
damage
seen that. Listen, me and you castled a lot of games, but I've never seen a monkey die in the Fear No Evil. Still, just do enough to bring down the target he was after.
I mean, I've seen, Checo with the last second Sanctuary, Aegis. I've seen the Zeus ults, I've seen the heart bombs, I've seen that sort of thing make it happen. But the Fear No Evil, that one's for the highlight reel.
And oBoronic just fired out his ultimate then. You saw it hit onto Delta Marine after the pull by Kenshin, but that's down to build choice here, really. He's gone for more defensive and utility options, which means that Rod doesn't have the amount of power he'd like to.
I'm actually mad that he buys a Rod of Healing. He has a Rod of Asclepius. He has a Rod of Asclepius into the Odin.
So Rod of Asclepius back in the day before Odin changed, it used to actually give you some healing still through the ring. You'd get a small amount of healing still. Problem is now Odin ring got changed.
Yeah.
Odin will reduce your healing by 150 million%. You are not healing a penny in that ring.
Yeah.
Don't know why you'd heal a penny, but let's go with that.
I mean, maybe you're trying to, diversify your bonds.
It's a penny from my thoughts. That's what it was.
I don't like that one.
No, neither do I.
Yeah, you were better beforehand.
Yeah, I know. I should have fixed it. It didn't work
works
out.
See, that's why we always say when you dig yourself a hole, just walk away. Don't keep digging.
That's true. Why are we both still here then? We should have dug our way out of here by now, surely. Come on.
Watch this one, though. Elevate stuck in a hole trying to dig their way out of this one. Down about 10,000 gold to Obey's 57, make that 58K. And with the Gold Fury, this is just going to make that hole even deeper. Elevate trailing by an even 10K. Obey 12-5 at the 23-minute mark. And they are just looking like the defending world champs that they are.
So the big thing with this game that happened is at the start, Obey went to where their advantages were, towards the Odin, towards the whole year. They got their laners ahead as best they could. Elevate tried to hold off and giving up much, but by doing so, they gave away Gold Furies, they gave away Portal Demons for free to Obey.
Yeah.
When Elevate thought the time was on where they could actually start to fight back, they tried to test the waters, and Obey just beat the living crap out of them and continued taking objectives. And now Elevate are once again going, well, we've got to wait a little bit longer to catch up, but the bad news is, Obey are in full swing.
MichaelCheco avoids the stun, dishes one out himself, and gets taken down before the rewind comes through.
400.
Air Cougar, 72.
413 auto attack was that last one coming out of Cougar's bow then. That's how strong that was. Checo didn't even get a chance to rewind. I think he had the right timing for it, but I don't think he took into account the itemization that Cougar's at right now. With a Chins, an Assy, a Trans, and now on top of that, the Titan's Bane, he is going to be swinging.
I mean, absolutely. The Chin Sai is what's really scary for this squad across the way. They're not even that tanky. It's just going to be extra damage on top. I don't like Transcendence and Chin Sai together, but at this point in the game, who cares?
I do want to see Elevate in Game 2 now, because as it's standing, unless Elevate steal away a Fire Giant or look for something, Obey will just continue to strangle the life out of Elevate in Game 1. What they do need to do, though, is for Game 2, draft a little bit more early game pressure. It's DoctorL in the left-hand side middle lane, I should say, having to trade with myflin, losing the battle, and DoctorL still going to run inside in the backside. Marine's already found one.
And there's going to be trouble for Oboronic, saved by his support for the moment, but he's taken down just as quickly. pbnjellly finds his second kill of the contest, 2-0 and 10 for the young support.
But look how confident Marine is now. When you're a Zeus at level 18 and nobody's really causing you many problems, you can walk up to people and force them away on your own. Here comes delnyy, though, looking to contest. Has ultimate available.
Nah.
I know, man.
I don't think so. Rally here, stuns out too. delnyy still trying to deal damage, but myflin and 3 other teammates surround him. Just not gonna happen.
But that's because they knew where Checo was the whole time. They knew Dwurst had Checo's number. If Checo was hidden away there, that was more of an awkward call for Obey. Because if they tried to turn onto delnyy there to bring him down, Checo could have bursted through the whole squad.
Oh yeah.
But because they knew where he was, it made it easy for them to turn onto delnyy, pick him up, then the Fire Giant after.
This Chronos just not working out. I mean, the damage that he's been able to amass throughout the game has just not been high enough for what he needs to do as a Chronos. If you're going to play Chronos, you got to either have player damage very high, which he's sitting way down at the bottom, 4th from the bottom, or your structure damage has to be out of control. You got to play it like a soul. And guess what? Neither is very high for this Chronos player.
Look at those graphs right now and notice that this slow curve up to 15k of each of these graphs started at 0-0. You can see it just started from the beginning and continued on. It's not really gone up at a dramatic pace, but it's just been consistent. When you're playing a World Championship squad that Obey is, that's what you expect to see.
You can actually see the individual marks where Elevate let objectives go.
Yep.
Right there as the 0 in 0644, that was the Gold Fury. Then a little bit further by the L in gold, that's going to be the Portal Demon. You go even further, 20 minutes in, that's one of the bigger team fights, and then it just leapfrogs all the way to the top after a tear that Obey goes on. I mean, the story is told in the graph itself.
With only 2 towers left now as well, Obey have got an additional 3,000 gold to pick up off this map, which there's no way Elevate can really contest. That's going to pretty much finish off some of these 6 items that Obey are waiting on finishing here, and starts to upgrade some of the relics, which we don't talk about much, but it does come in handy for these engagements in the late game.
I mean, it just gives you more opportunity to use those relics. Most of the relics, by upgrading them, you're going to see a lower cooldown on them. Some of them get some advanced usages, but really you're looking at cooldown.
And the cooldown becomes more survivability in these engagements. Exactly. It means they're up a little bit more often, so if you burn them, you're not too screwed over. The enemy team can get a little bit baited by that too, sometimes thinking that your beads may have been on cooldown at a certain point, but hold that thought, here we go.
Ultimate over the wall coming out from the Hunter. There's Oboronic combining with the Monkey, taking down Air Cougar. A huge pick.
Absolutely monstrous, especially because they took out the carry, which is Air Cougar. He's the one that's the majority of the damage to these Phoenixes from range. Yes, myflin can get in there and do auto-attack damage, but he's melee-based, and if he goes that deep, he will be punished. Oboronic stopped the advance of Obey. This Fire Giant is probably not going to get any more use out of it, I feel now. Maybe a goal for you at best.
It's a very big stop for Elevate right here. That's one of those wins that they need to get. They need to find that win, and they need to find, honestly, they're down,
it's
what,
probably
16,000?
Honestly, it's about another 4 wins like that, but it's 4 wins like that where they find the picks that put Obey on the back foot, but they have to get a result off it, and that's what they're trying to do here. They got the kill on Cougar. If they can get this Gold Fury, it slows down Obey a little bit more and catches them up, but the problem is, Obey have 4 members with Fire Giant still waiting.
I still respect this play call coming out from Elevate. Gonna deal some damage to pbnjellly. There's the flip up. MichaelCheco gonna be rooted. Jumping on top comes Jelly and brings down the Hunter down to about half HP. For big ultimate out of DoctorL on the backside. That's gonna control 2 different players.
And with that as well, the chain lightning comes out from Delta Marine. No ultimate available from just yet to get extra damage off. But Elevate have to back away. Obey are too tanky. The Fire Giant is giving them regeneration.
Dwurst sets up the jungler and myflin takes him to town. Kenshin goes down.
And that's just exactly what I was expecting to happen there. Elevate had a shot at the Gold Fury, they went for it, but as soon as Obey comes to defend, it's time to cut your losses and back away and go, all right, guys, we can't realistically do this. We should fall back to our Phoenixes again, wait for the next Fire Giant, we'll look to contest that. We can't get this gold on our own right now.
Yeah, this Chronos just has not worked out the way I and a lot of Elevate fans would have liked it to. delnyy in trouble here as Dwurst is just dealing with him. Damage from the mid lane, Zeus is going to hurt him as well. And the left side Phoenix goes down without a hitch. 18 kills for Obey. Elevate have a third of that.
And Air Cougar respawning was so important. You can see that he's back in the mix now. Obey managed to buy enough time to actually get him back to this squad, which means they can still make a bit more use of that Fire Giant, getting 2 Phoenixes. They wouldn't have got anything else other than a Gold Fury if Elevate would have just backed away and left it. Elevate tried to make something extra happen for themselves, which I understand. But in doing so, you bit off too much and you brought Obey back into a even more comfortable position than he should have been right now.
This is the moment where you kind of have to make those crazy calls and those crazy plays.
It's true.
Which is why I like the Gold Fury crazy call. But yeah, like you, would have loved to see Elevate just completely retreat. Listen, Sun Tzu had no shame in retreating. I don't think there's any shame in Elevate retreating here.
But one now for Elevate in this game. The only way back in to have a chance is to go at the Fire Giant and contest it. You have to steal this away and hope that you can have at least 2 members alive. Hopefully wave clearers of those 2 members that stay alive too. The problem is if this goes wrong, Obey will take this game 1.
Absolutely.
Comfortably.
I mean, Elevate, this is their... Well, that's that. I was going to say, this is their last shot, but
last game, yeah.
They've got homework to do.
It's classic any team, really, that they don't realize that you've got to put up or shut up in certain situations in these games. More than likely, Elevate are probably looking for that hot snipe from oBoronic again, trying to take out Cougar, but Cougar will be ready.
Exactly. Elevate right now down over 20,000 gold. Obey pushing on the right-hand side. Let's listen to them as they tactfully take out the right lane.
Bye-bye, Matches.
Let waves forward.
Yeah, we got waves. Chronos is by himself right now.
Oh,
Easy kill.
That's all.
Take it.
He's gonna be right here.
One Batz ult down.
Ulti him? Oh, it sucks.
I got right Phoenix.
That sucks.
Well, we
Alright, back up.
We get the Phoenix. One
One
Batz ult down. One Batz
Just
flank and ult.
get out.
But why? We can just shoot.
Why?
We have 3, we have to keep pressure.
I'm not gonna catch it. I'm just gonna
Okay, never mind, we don't need him.
This'll throw.
That's beads and Aegis down on Chronos.
Bellona.
That's my shell.
We can Bellona again.
Go Bellona.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, you can't. Are we trying to end?
Yeah, end the game.
The end was semi-clean there. I thought it's got to go down the Titan. It wasn't as clear as they wanted, though, but it worked out. Game 1 goes to Obey.
What I liked about that listening to Obey was how calm they were. There was just no concern.
Well,
they go on the Chronos, they even make a mistake and they go, okay.
Well, it's because they were so far ahead that they could afford to make mistakes and look back at it and go, they're not overly excited. It's only game 1. They've won a world championship. Winning a semi-final game against someone like Elevate isn't something to be screaming and shouting about right now.
Exactly.
It's sit there and like, right, game 1. We've still got 2 more of those to do to get us through to the finals.
They've been around the block. Can't say the same about the Elevate team. You've got some veterans like Kenshin on there, but a lot of new blood.
And the big thing is if you actually saw Elevate celebrate at the end, if Elevate won game 1 there, they should have been the ones screaming and shouting and hollering because it's like, hey, we're the underdogs here. But when you're expected to win, it's all business as usual. Casual, calm.
Chronos' pick did not work out the way I would have liked, but I think it's the most normal pick we're going to see out of Checo. I really want to see him dive into that bag of tricks. That's how Elevate are going to win, by sticking to their identity.
But then we've seen the hell out of him before. We've just seen Odin in that game. If you're going to try and go deep in the trick pool, take away the Odin.
Maybe. I'm expecting and looking for Abois. Do we see it in game number 2? I don't know. Let's ask the desk.
And Abois would certainly be a spicy pick for either side to try and make happen. But considering the way that the picks and bans went in game number 1, I would again just have to say that's heavily favored Obey so much, considering just how much AoE and map control they were able to have.
I mean, after the Odin pick from Obey Alliance, it seemed that Elevate kind of counterpicked themselves. Last picking the Raw, going for the Chronos, there just wasn't enough physical damage on their side for the mid-game teamfights. Now, Chronos and Raw are great if you can get to that late-game form, but against the Odin, it was just not happening.
If I had to be real with you, though, Tolly, I think the oBoronic was making phenomenal plays on this Raw despite the disadvantages that he was facing up against that Odin and just the entirety of the Obey draft. He had no issues whatsoever. Even when he was trapped within that Odin ring, he was still getting his ultimate off and picking up a couple of pretty key picks. And when that happens, I mean, that's still some comeback potential.
It's still like you're able to make plays as the Raw with your long range abilities, but you're not able to do the same impact because there are some offensive tools to be really close to your opposition, using that second ability for the slow, for the blind effect, but you don't want to get that close against an Odin, having to play super far back against the rest of Obey's composition, against myflin's Awilix that went off completely that game, not to mention also Yi for Air Cougar that was able to survive a lot of the ganks there from oBoronic.
I do think that Elevate were investing a little bit too much into Air Cougar on this Yi, and Air Cougar just had an excellent game all around, just completely controlling the dual lane from the get-go. But do you feel as though Elevate tried to play a little bit too aggressive?
I feel they definitely got caught with their pants down at some stages. Here at the Gold Fear, they were not prepared. Even MichaelCheco for that first blood. And every single time that they tried to aggress onto Air Cougar, you know, he had the Aegis Amulet to be able to survive a lot of the burst damage potential. So I wouldn't say necessarily that they were overextended, but it was just the fact that they couldn't execute as efficiently as Obey Alliance was.
And just so much damage on Yi's ultimate. Combine that with his Mark of the Crow and his Ricochet. It's just ultimately so difficult to handle once it starts rolling.
I mean, you're hitting Chronos for 400 damage we just saw there. There's no surviving if you're MichaelCheco.
None whatsoever. And unfortunately for MichaelCheco, just too much targeting. He had a bullseye on his back, and it was very obvious that Obey were looking to take Checo out of every single fight.
Absolutely. Obey looking so strong after winning that first game, having to go for different kind of styles here in game number 2, both Elevate and Obey Alliance. You know, this is a best of 5 set here, and could the way picks and bans worked out for the first time around, you know, Obey taking out the Morrigan as well as Hebo and the Vulcan. I'm surprised to see these kinds of bans this early on in the best of 5.
And even though the game did go on a little bit longer than what most people are probably anticipating, considering how much of a lead Obey were able to establish early on, do you feel as though this is the same kind of control and presence we can expect for the rest of the set from Obey?
Oh, absolutely. They were so confident after the last win against Optimus Gang in the yesterday's best of 3 set, and then today you could just hear in the comms just how relaxed they were. They weren't really too worried about this first game. You know, this is just another day in the office for myflin and the rest of his team. And speaking of which, you know, playing this aggressive Awilix right off the bat, first picking it with Susno, Ban, and Kabrakan, Obey Alliance showing what they truly prioritize.
And myflin, whenever he gets Awilix, everybody on the map knows, because he makes his presence all over, and you wouldn't typically expect it. Sure, Awilix has great mobility considering that she has the Suku available, but that's just absolutely incredible the way that he's able to maneuver in and out of these team fights.
Making him a key staple player for Obey Alliance is why they have this kind of dominant performance, not just online, but also in the LAN environment. You know, kind of looking at the difference between these two beasts, between the LAN and online phase. Really relaxed was Obey Alliance before coming into the LAN, but there's nothing but serious work on the side here. But on the other hand, you know, you're also having Elevate that's still trying to get in the right spot at the right time and get back into it in this best of 5.
And consider